You're listening to Big World Network.
Ghosts of Our Present, Episode 1, written and read by Jennifer Wright. The man in the pinstripe suit had a problem sitting still. He was a slender reed of a man, constantly swaying and vibrating in an invisible wind. When he led me to his office from the lobby, he had not walked but rather sashayed, his comically long arms swinging wildly at his sides as if trying to keep his balance. Even now, seated behind his desk, his fingers fluttered and his legs continued to bounce, sending the mess of red curls atop his head springing in several different directions. His name was Mr. Ozenberry. He was talking, and I was supposed to be paying attention. It was imperative I paid attention. His nasally, high-pitched voice reverberated around me, but his words were foreign. I couldn't focus. The curls, they were hypnotizing. His blonde highlights created the effect of an exploding firework. "Ms. Evans." The high-pitched sound became clearer, forming the first semblance of a word. I blinked. He was talking to me. "Yes?" The man stared at me expectantly. I tore my eyes from his hair and focused on his face. Pale skin, beak-like nose, and large, unblinking blue eyes. It flirted with the line between comical and unsettling. His annoyed expression pushed it towards the latter. "You're from Illinois, correct?" "Indiana, actually." He waved one large hand dismissively. "Same thing." He glanced back down at my portfolio. "Let's see. B.S. in journalism from Indiana State University, graduated magna cum laude. Studied abroad for 2 semesters. You worked for the student newspaper in high school and in college. And you've worked at the Essen Examiner since you were—" He paused, doing the math in his head. 16? I nodded. "Wow, 16." He looked back up at me. "You must have had some talent to get hired as a reporter at 16. I couldn't tell if it was a question. I tried to make my smile seem genuine. Was it technically lying if I simply didn't mention my family owned the paper? That my father was editor-in-chief? "I like to think so," I said instead. "So tell me, Ms. Evans, why Las Vegas? Why Vagabond?" My mind flashed back to my dark, dusty cubicle at the Examiner, to the last story I'd written before I left, the one about the county fair. I'd touched on all the highlights, the tractor pull, the hog competition, the queen pageant, and scored myself with a front-page headline. In my head, I replayed the panic attack I'd had over seeing it, my first cover story as a college graduate. I remembered how I'd thrown the paper in the trash and immediately began trolling the internet for reporter jobs, and how now, a week later, I found myself 1,000 miles from home, sitting in Mr. Ozenberry's corner office, the Las Vegas Strip visible through thickly tinted windows. That's what I was thinking. I needed a change, was all I said. Mr. Ozenberry drummed his long, spidery fingers on his desk. "Well, Ms. Evans, let me be frank. It was your persistence alone that won you this interview. While your credentials are impressive, I'm not sure a Midwestern girl like yourself is the right fit for a cosmopolitan magazine like ours. Vagabond is about current trends, popular news, and things important to Las Vegas right now." He ran a bony hand through his curls and stuck his nose in the air. "Our magazine caters not only to Vegas locals, but also to the millions of people who visit this fabulous city every year. People from all over the world. Writing for our audience requires a certain level of—" He sneered at me dramatically. "Sophistication." Ouch. "I understand, sir," I mumbled. "A small-town paper is nothing like a big city magazine. But I'm a hard worker, and I'm a good writer." I leaned over his desk and shuffled through a few of my pieces. "These are just a sample—" "I've read your stuff, Miss Evans," he interrupted. "I'm not saying it's not good." He sighed. How many competitors did your paper have in high school? In college? Even at the professional level, at the Examiner? One, if any at all? I nodded slowly, not liking where this was headed. Vagabond has 3 direct competitors. 3! And that's just the magazines. We also have newspapers, websites, and newsletters to contend with. He leaned across his desk dramatically. Journalism here, it's not about information. It's about money, it's about competition, and it's a ruthless, ruthless business. You're a talented writer, Ms. Evans, but I just don't know if you're the kind of reporter who can survive here. Indignation welled up in my throat. But, he held up one hand. I'm sorry, Ms. Evans. I don't have time for bullshit, so let me be blunt. You seem like a nice girl, and you aren't a bad writer. You're just not the right fit. I'm sure in a few more years you'll be the biggest star reporter in Illinois, Indiana, whatever. You want my advice? He bent over his desk, his icy eyes piercing mine. Stay there. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let myself cry. I'm better than what they have me doing, I pleaded. He looked at me sharply. Well, he said curtly, that's an issue to take up with your current employer, not me. He looked down and began to shuffle some papers. Best of luck. The interview was over. I stood up to leave. The tears were long gone, replaced with indignation and anger. Essen was screwing me again. I didn't even realize how much I wanted the job until it had been taken from me without so much as a backward glance. I clenched my fists. You know, your ad said it was an entry-level position. He looked up as if surprised to still see me. I beg your pardon? It's an entry-level position, I repeated. Your ad said bachelor's degree or 6 months' experience in a related field. I have both. I believe that makes me more than qualified. Even if you ignored my degree, you can't discredit my experience simply because you don't like where I gained it. An entry-level position is an elementary position, a teaching position, one in which an employer will provide opportunities for learning the business at hand. If you don't plan on offering a job that meets the basic description of entry-level, you shouldn't advertise it as one. Mr. Osenberry's blue eyes narrowed. The sour expression on his clown-like face was unnerving. I'd crossed a line. I didn't care. Have a nice day, sir, I nearly spat. I spun around to leave. And that's when he started laughing. Loud, echoing guffaws coming from someplace different than his high-pitched voice. His face contorted grotesquely with each howl. I smiled at him uncertainly, frozen in place. Sit down, he gasped between fits of laughter. Please. He motioned towards my seat. I sat, never taking my eyes off him. I hoped he couldn't see my legs shake. Well, he said, quieting, maybe there's more to you than I gave you credit for, Ms. Evans. This meek, mild, Midwestern exterior hides your bitchiness well, and bitchiness is exactly what you need in this town. I furrowed my brow while keeping my cautious smile. Did he just call me a bitch? You surprised me, and I am very rarely surprised. He nodded to himself. I think I have to at least give you a chance after that performance. He grinned at me expectantly, exposing his large, perfectly polished teeth. Are you offering me the job? I stuttered, incredulous. He rolled his eyes. Well, yes, I thought so, unless you're too naive to figure that out. He extended his hand. I stared at it. I felt uneasy. I didn't trust this man. Everything about him, his appearance, the way he talked, the way he dismissed me immediately and then changed his mind so suddenly because he thought I was a bitch, I still wasn't quite sure what had happened. Told me to run the other way. But this is what I'd come here for. I wasn't leaving without it. I grabbed his hand and shook it forcefully. Welcome to Vagabond, he oozed.
You're listening to Big World Network.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.